Yo, Remy here. I want to talk about something that not only I actually seen a lot of players trying to do, but I myself am also trying to do. And that's to fix our accounts. I think it's perfectly normal if someone make mistakes in their Star Rail journey. Everybody started knowing absolutely nothing about the game. Some people just wanted to get a quick play and then dip. Others kept on playing. And within some of these people, they're trying to make their account better. Maybe endgame is getting a little bit too hard to do. Heck, maybe even regular farming isn't all that easy. Maybe they can barely do the various simulated universe contents or even combat related events. So in this video, I'm gonna go over various tips that I usually tell people, including my friends, when I'm trying to help sort through their account. These aren't gonna be like a billion little tips in a video, just a few pointers that I tend to use. I know very well that a massive part of the mistakes done to an account is related to the units that they pull and or build, since that translates to wasted resources like the Jades. And while I'm definitely gonna talk about full plans advice as well, I'm also gonna talk about other much simpler things that, in my opinion, can carry your account in the long run. For example, I said this in a previous video that you guys should definitely watch, please and thank you, how you should be using the assignments for primary resources like credits, end character, and light cone EXP, instead of crafting materials or enemy drops. Cause realistically speaking, you barely use the consumables in this game, and you get plenty of enemy drops anyway, even if you're just passively playing the game. And besides, there's 3 primary resources that you can get from the assignments anyway, so you can just use that last 4th slot on anything you want. By using the assignment feature on primary resources, you allow yourself to essentially get them without having to spend your stamina on them. This is an extremely common mistake that I see a lot of players do, including my own friends. The thing is, right, this isn't simply saving stamina on basic resources. It's also about the opportunity cost. Let me give an example. Let's say you log in for the day and you have 240 stamina to spend. You're thinking of improving your units, so you decided to get some relics. But then you realize you don't even have enough credits to upgrade those relics. So you decide to do a run or 2 on Credit Calyx. 2 runs on the Credit Calyx would take you 120 stamina, which means you can only do 3 runs of Relic Cavern. But if you had enough credits to begin with, say by passive income from the assignments, you could have spent those 120 stamina on relics instead, giving you literally twice as much runs on the relic farming. Now I'm not saying that these extra 3 runs will guarantee you perfect pieces, but it is more attempts at it at the end of the day. You're getting twice as much relics as you would otherwise, you're building your characters twice as fast, however you wanna look at it. And besides, Relic Cavern also gives you a little bit of credits anyway, which adds up in the long run since it's not like you're getting perfect relics every day. This applies to trace farming as well. I know traces can be expensive, so it's extra tempting to spend stamina on credits for it, but let me put it this way. I'm sure y'all know that it takes a bunch of materials to max out your traces, especially if you're not getting those purple drops that often. But just like Relic Caverns, Trace Calyx also gives you a little bit of credits. So in the long time that it takes to farm trace materials, you're already slowly building up to those credits anyway. And if you have the assignments going on the side, that adds up to the credit count as well. Not to mention, while you're doing all this, there's also quests, events, and whatever side content that you have going on. By the time you've completely farmed up all the trace materials that you need, you'd probably already have enough credits to upgrade those traces anyway. Trust me, just set your assignments like this, and you're pretty much good to go. I've been doing this since launch, and I've never run out of credits and EXP. Granted, being mostly free to play also means that I'm not pulling as much characters, therefore I don't use as much resources. But even then, right now I'm sitting on like 20 million credits. The only time I've done Credit Calyx is during the first days of playing the game. And that's just so I'm not capped on stamina since I couldn't really farm anything else worthwhile at the time. With that out of the way, we can move to the next mistake I want to talk about: spreading your resources too thin. This is probably also a really common mistake that players do, and I kinda understand why. It does get very tempting to randomly build up a lot of units, especially at the start of the game. It's pretty cheap to do, since you're capped at how much you can raise a unit early on anyway, it gives standard pulls on certain breakthrough, and you get to play with plenty of different units. But this usually leads to players getting confused on who to raise, especially when the unit level cap is removed. Not only that, but players are taught that reducing toughness bars can help in combat. This is also a factor in players raising different units, cause in their mind, elemental coverage is key, when in reality, in my opinion, it's really not. Another factor is that some of the early guide missions require players to beat a certain level in the memory hall, and this further pushes players building more units than they actually need to. This issue goes further than it seems at first. At a glance, players only see this as simply spending minimal resources to add variety in their early gameplay. But what they usually fail to realize is that for every resource they spend raising random characters, those are resources that they could have put into their main units once the various caps are unlocked. And this can lead to the previous issue where players might feel the need to spend stamina on things like credit and EXP. Yes, this entire game is about resource management and opportunity cost. If you don't impulse spend your resources, may it be credits or jades, you can actually have a pretty chill time in this game, even as a free-to-play. And on the note of raising too many characters, I wanna touch on the idea of building a second team. I've always tried my best to dissuade players from even thinking about a second team until they're finished with their first one. Because raising that many units at a time can also lead to the same exact issue that we've been talking about, feeling like you don't have enough resources and all that jazz. It just clouds your focus and you end up with a bunch of non-finished units, all feeling horrible to use. That first team doesn't even have to have min-max relics. Just make sure everyone's level is max, all their traces are maxed, their light cone levels are maxed, and they have 5-star relics with the right main stats that are also maxed. They don't even need to have super min-max subs yet if you can't be bothered to. Ideally, you also already have the tidbits of their key verticals like signature or E1 or E2, but if you want to skip that early on, that's fine. Point is, do all that for every character in the team, including the supports, the sub DPS if you have one in the team, and the sustain if you're running one, then you can think of a second team to aim for. And obviously this also goes for the potential third team as well. Finish the second one before thinking about the third. Yes, this will take a long time to achieve. Yes, this can be sped up by spending money. And that is why you have to be patient with this if you want to remain free to play. I know that going for multiple teams can be tempting. Maybe you're feeling left out because of the old players tackling endgame and you want to join in the fun. Maybe you're already bored or burnt out on the team that you're trying to raise or that you're playing every day, or whatever the reason is. I'm just gonna tell you that it's not worth it in my opinion. If you're a sweat and you're trying to limit push yourself or something, then by all means go ahead. But if you're just a casual trying to enjoy this game, I'd say just take it easy and tackle it when the time is right for your account. Are you gonna miss the potential rewards that you could have gotten if you cleared the endgame? Yes. But you'd probably lose more resources than you'd gain from rushing the process anyway. Star Rail is significantly less expensive if you actually have the patience and ability to resist the FOMO, and to be honest, every gacha as well. And with that in mind, we can now talk about pull planning. I'm mainly gonna be talking about pulling around a DPS, because if your favorite unit is a support or a sustain, or even a sub DPS, then you can simply pull for whichever DPS that work well with them. There's a certain idea that you'd want to keep in mind when pulling for a unit, and this might be considered a hot take by some people. If you don't eventually vertical this unit, it'll be slightly more challenging to play with them in the future. It's been well known that older units tend to struggle more than newer ones. Aside from the obvious power creep, the game's environment also shifts accordingly to cater to set newer units. It's not like old units get weaker in time, it's just that they no longer operate in their comfort zone. Let me put it this way. Imagine in version 2, the game released a unit who is a shark. The MOC in version 2 is the sea, and the goal is to eat a lot of meat. You can imagine how OP the shark would be in that scenario. It can freely swim around, it can chomp off meat without an issue, and everyone praises how strong the shark is. But in version 3, now we're in the jungle, and the goal is to climb a tree to eat fruits. Well, now the shark looks weak and useless, because it no longer fits in the scenario, and it's having a hard time clearing the objective. The shark wasn't weak to begin with, and it wasn't nerfed somewhere along the way, it's just that the scenario no longer caters to it. And if you still wanna play with the shark, I don't know, give it SpongeBob's breathing helmet or something. And you might wanna give it a friend who can help it climb a tree or eat fruits. Obviously, the devs would want you to just get a monkey, which is the unit that they'd be selling by then. And this is where you have to make a decision. Do you continue investing in your old units, or do you pull the new one? Needless to say, if you have the means to do both, then you do you. I just want to give my thoughts to help those who have to choose. In my opinion, it truly is up to you whether you want to continue investing in that old team or start a new one. But I do have to say, the older the unit gets, the harder it is to make them keep up with the newer environment, especially if it specifically goes against their very kit. The prime example of this would be something like Toughness Lock against Breakers. Now, I'm not saying you have to eventually E6 somebody. I don't think E6 is ever worth the investment anyway, but you'd probably have to plan for a team of full E2 as 1 units or something along the lines. And yeah, it's fine to do this over multiple reruns. Personally, this is what I did with my Firefly. Although right now I am putting a halt on my Firefly team because I already have most of the important verticals, so I want to focus more on Saber's team or even looking for a third team. But regardless of if you want to stay with your old units or play with the new ones, eventually you'll have to make this decision again, because what used to be the new unit now will be an old one by then. There is not a single unit who is immune from this ever-changing scenario. There is not a single unit who is safe from power creep. There are only those who can adapt better than the others. Don't let anyone tell you that a unit is completely future-proof in this game, especially at low investment. Another thing about pool plans that might sound obvious to some people, if you want to fix and or optimize your roster, then you should pull based on your roster. I know, it's crazy. What I mean by this is don't blindly pull units just because someone said they're good, or meta, or whatever. Let me explain. Let's say you have an account with an incomplete Castress team. You don't have her signature and you don't have Hyacinth. Just because Finon and Sunday are tier 0 in a tier list somewhere doesn't mean that you should pull them as an effort to fix your account. Because for one, this just circles back to the previous issue about having too many characters to raise. And for two, unless you magically pulled the verticals of these random new units, this does absolutely nothing to fix your account. If anything, it puts you in a much worse scenario because now, not only that you still have to fix that Castress team, you also have a potentially new team that you have to raise, which takes up even more resources to do. The Jades you spent on getting that Finon and Sunday could have been spent on getting Castress signature and Hyacinth, which would have put your account in a significantly better spot. At this point, some people would argue like, oh, but I got them in a 10 pull anyway, it's basically free. And today I say, that free 5-star in a 10 pull could have been the signature and Hyacinth that you actually needed. Now, not only that you lost a bunch of pulls on nothing worthwhile, you also practically reset your pity. This is a quick wake-up call that I want to give out. When you guys get a 5-star in only a 10 pull, was it really only a 10 pull?
It might have been a 10 pull on that banner, but how many pity deep were you already in? If you were already 60 pity from the previous banner, failed to get the unit, but then a new banner come up, and now you just only spend 10 pulls to get a 5-star, that 5-star didn't only cost you a 10 pull, it costed you 70. And if your previous 5-star was a 50-50 loss, and all you got for it is a wasted unit that does nothing for your account, you just practically throw away about 150 pulls or so for absolutely nothing. Don't try to cope with your bad habits by saying you got lucky, because even your luck could have been better spent fixing your account. Now I get it, right? You can spend your resources however you want, you decide how you want to play the game, but then don't go around being the kind of player who's like, I lost my 50-50, I'm only F2P, please give me monthly, please give me Jades, Like no, it's not about being free to play, you just have terrible pool plans and have absolutely zero self-control. Which at that point, you should definitely quit gacha games, if I'm being honest. Does luck have anything to do with this gacha game? Obviously yes, it is RNG at the end of the day. But can you offset bad luck with patience and proper pull plans? Absolutely yes. To wrap it all up, get your assignments right, manage your resources properly, and pull the right units for your account. Before I go off, I have a few more things I want to say. To put it bluntly, I've seen something in the future that, in my opinion, is a bit suspicious, to say the least. I have a certain feeling towards it, but I'm not gonna say anything for now. I want to see how the community reacts to it first, but I feel like I already know how they're gonna go about it. And if they do react in the way that I expect them to, I will point and laugh and call out the bullshit. Another thing that I saw, but this is more so related to Wuthering Waves. Yes, I recently picked up this game again. I used to play a bit since launch, but dropped it because I was playing Genshin back then, and I didn't really want to play two open world RPGs at the same time. Wuthering Waves is made by Kuro Games. Kuro had another action gacha game before Wuthering Waves. It's called Punishing Grey Raven. Now I wasn't exactly super knowledgeable about the meta in PGR, but I did hear tidbits about it. And let's just say, I've played these games before. And that's about it. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, comment down your thoughts, feedbacks are greatly appreciated, and I'll be reading through them. If you want to see more of me, consider hitting the subscribe button, it's free. I'll be doing more of these Jap videos in the future. Now take a sip of water and have a good day.